All right, we're going to look at this scene from the Sapphires. This is a scene in which Cynthia and Gail approach Kay's apartment looking to recruit her for their upcoming trip to Vietnam. Now, straight away, this first shot we see is of a Tupperware party, and that's immediately obvious because we see the housewives congregating around, socializing. We see the Tupperware, and we also see lots of bright, vibrant, bold colors, which really gives that 60s aesthetic. Now, the mise en scene here is important, and mise en scene is what is in the scene, everything in the scene, from the costuming, the characters, the props and objects, the way those things are arranged, composition, and the colors and things as well are important to that as well. So it's basically everything in the scene, and it tells a bit of a story when we look at a picture like this. First of all, as an establishing shot, it establishes what's happening, which is the Tupperware party, but also symbolically as well, it links to that idea of order and organization. The Tupperware itself is symbolic of compartmentalizing, segregating, neat and tidy, that very urban, domesticated lifestyle. It also shows the kind of contrast to what we've seen up to this point, in which Gail and Cynthia's life, growing up on the mission, would be, markedly different to this kind of lifestyle. So already we can see that Kay is living in a different world. The bright, vibrant colours too, we'll see, will contrast with that of Gail and Cynthia as they introduce themselves to Kay in this scene.
Ladies, this design fits, just stacks beautifully in the fridge or the pantry.
Now we see here from Kay's body language and facial expression, she's warm, open and welcoming, big friendly smile. We can see she's holding some coffee there.
Coffee, anyone?
And she's offering to pour coffee for her friends there at the party. And we could just say she's being a good host, but if we're going to analyze this and look into a bit deeper, and perhaps more cynically, we could say this could be perhaps showing that in this world that she's in, she's seen as only being useful as someone who can serve others, as a utility, subservient to others. But also as well, we could say it really shows her desire to fit in and to conform to the sort of the people around her in this new world that she's in.
It makes great lunchboxes, things like that.
Okay, cut to Cynthia approaching. We can see straight away the colours are much more muted. The lighting is different. We've got this low-key lighting as opposed to the high-key lighting of Kay's apartment. We can see Cynthia's colours are more muted as well. Browns and the brick here, sort of oranges, so that this scene is sort of devoid of colour. And trailing behind Cynthia is Gail, who we can see from her posture, her facial expression and her body language, she is not happy to be here. She is not happy to be meeting up with Kay. Now we cut to this wide shot here. Now the proximity of Gail to Cynthia shows and highlights her reluctance to meet Kay. So she's trailing behind, and the distance between the two characters really emphasizes that. She's sort of trailing behind, reluctant, almost like a child who doesn't want to go somewhere. Okay, and then the sort of the indicator from Cynthia as well, who's sort of having to almost force her to come to the door. And again, we can see from the facial expression there is a lack of emotion there in Gail's face and the side too. Now, this is an interesting shot for a few reasons. The composition here is really sort of representative of the way in which Kay is presented to us as an outsider. Even though she's inside this world, and this world being the apartment, and we've just had a glimpse of the outside world there. So there's this idea of inside and outside, both literally and figuratively. But even as a part of this world, Kay seems to stand out as being different. So as the salient image here, where our eye is drawn to her, the colours obviously are very eye-catching and bright and vibrant. But she is standing up, and so she stands out. She's different from these people who are all at the same level, who all have sort of nice, neat hairstyles. And we could again be very cynical once more and say that she is looking at them and they are not looking at her. So again, it shows that her willingness to try to fit in, despite the fact that she's not really a part of this world. She's kind of on the fringes, sort of within and without simultaneously, not really fitting in. Now, notice the facial expression which changes. So the nice tight close-up here really shows how this facial expression changes from one of happiness and of being a good host to a look of almost sort of shame, perhaps, or she's worried, perhaps, that her past has come back to confront her again.
Howdy, Gail. Cynthia. You should have let me know.
Now, notice here we have a reverse shot being used, which is when we shoot one character and then edit the reaction shots of the people they're talking to create a dialogue scene. So we've got our shot and our reverse shot. And here we can see the real juxtaposition of these two different worlds that have come into collision. We have this low-key lighting outside. We have nature in the background, sort of the tree. We have Gail's colour here, which is like a dark blue, and again, Cynthia's sort of muted browns. And when we contrast that with this other world,
what do you want?
We see brighter, high-key lighting, more vibrant colours, and we see a doorway in which is the kind of threshold between these two worlds, both literally, but in a way there's a lot of symbolism happening as well. Now, interesting from dialogue, what do you want? If it's money, I can't. This highlights the shame that Kay feels from her family and from her past, perhaps how she's been conditioned or taught to feel that shame, which would reveal the sort of issue she has with her self-identity and how she feels about herself and her culture, which is definitely a contextual thing that we can link in with Stolen Generations. And it's definitely an issue that sets up a sort of a simmering tension for the rest of the narrative too.
If it's money, I can't.
Hey, are you all right?
Won't be a moment. We coming in or what? It's not really convenient at the moment. I've guests.
Share. We make you shame, do we?
Now notice that an important piece of characterization here as well is that there is that conflict, which we will see will escalate and come to a head later in the film. And Gail just out says it. We make you feel shame. So that is the underlying tension there. This idea of shame and guilt of the past, of her family, of her culture, of her identity, and that's a big part of this film and the sort of the thematic kind of things that it explores as part of this film.
Jeez, you haven't changed one bit, have you? Still talking like some upper class goblin with your personal slaves.
I don't know.
Now, the use of the word gubba is another piece of dialogue which again highlights this tension. Gubba is a bit of a racial slur, meaning white person. It's something that usually speaking, an Aboriginal would call a white person a Gubba, and this has negative connotations. So here we have a bit of an insult.
I know what you mean.
Gubba. It means white person.
Think you'd better go.
Okay.
Can I help you?
No?
Kay, do you know these people? I'll handle this. Kay, we're going to Asia. What?
Where?
Asia. Thailand.
Vietnam, you twit.
Oh, Vietnam then. Well, don't get lost. We need you, cuz. We're going to...
Now notice here how K is framed by the door. So we have this kind of interesting framing device of the door. We see the door chain there. Now notice when we reverse back
We're going to be
to
doing shows for the soldiers in Thailand.
the other two characters, they seem to have more freedom. There's more space there. Now we see that in a way.
Vietnam. Singing. But it's got to be all three of us.
Kay feels trapped, and we can see here in her facial expression that there is a sense of maybe reluctance. She feels torn between these two worlds, and she's standing there at the precipice, at the threshold between these two worlds, but maybe she feels trapped. Maybe she feels like she needs to take that step to go back to who she is as a person or where she belongs. But the door there works as a very important, powerful visual symbol there, okay, as this barrier that exists between. And the fact that the door's open as well and there's still this barrier, maybe it also shows that sometimes the barriers that we face aren't always visible, that the door is open but she still feels like she can't step through it.
Wasting your breath. She's lost, that one.
Act your age, not your colour. Oh, geez, I don't know you two. You might better punch on or something, but sort it out, whatever it is. Because this is my big break. Sit down.
Your friend's screeching for you.
Kay, we're staying at Uncle Ed's, Kay.
Now we can see this shot here is important because we can see that Kay is quite emotional after this exchange. Her eyes seem teary, and it's a use of the close-up which really emphasizes this, but not only the close-up, but the shallow depth of field here. So that's a focal length in which we can see Kay's features are nice and clear, and the background kind of fades away into this kind of blurry kind of background, which symbolically, I guess you could say, it shows how this world is starting to fade away from Kay, and maybe she's thinking about what really matters, which is herself and her own identity and things like that. But also just visually as well, it helps draw our eyes to Kay and the image here through that shallow depth of field. So that's really powerful as well. And we can tell already that she's thinking about joining up with them, which is ultimately what will happen.